Okay. Hey, everybody. It's Will, and thanks for listening today. I'm very excited to have Chick Evans on the phone. Chick's in Ithica, New York. He owns Maxie's Supper Club, and I say he's in Ithica. He's there today. He's at the restaurant. He's there in the office, but he lives in Chicago. And Chick's been around in the business for a long time. He's done a lot of really cool things, and I'm just excited to have some of his time today. And Chick, thank you for joining us, man.
Will, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I think it's going to be fun.
So I got to ask. So what? Tell me about living in Chicago and owning a restaurant in Ithaca. What's the story, man? Tell me about how that all works.
Well, it's certainly has its challenges. Um, Excuse me, I had a little frog in my throat. The I've got a great team in Ithaca, and we've been at it for about 18 and a half years now since we opened Maxie's. And I was active on site here for the first, about 12 years I lived in Ithaca, and now it's been about 6 years out of Ithaca in Chicago. And over the years, as when we opened, of course, I was here 7 days a week, 15 hours a day, working the operation. And then over the years, when we opened, we brought in a full management team to start. I actually started the business back in '99 with Dewi, who was my ex-wife now, but she was my business partner and wife at the time. So we were on hands-on from the get-go, and then but brought in managers and chefs right from the start, and with the plan that we needed to have a life, that we were going to not be people that had to be here 7 days a week. So over the course of the years, we developed a management team, and we still have actually two people from our opening team who were managers from the get-go. My sister, Karen, who lives in Buffalo, and she comes down to Ithaca for 2 days a week. And we also have our general manager, Carol, who actually started as a server when we about a month after we opened, and has done every job in the restaurant, including working her way up to being our executive chef, and now she's our GM. So we have some longevity on the management team that oversees the day-to-day operations, and they also have assistant managers and a sous chef, chef de cuisine in the kitchen. So we have a strong leadership team that we've developed, and I think I think the thing that's freed me up to allow me to be in Chicago, and the reason I'm there is actually because my wife is from there, my second wife, and we have a daughter who we adopted about 5 years ago when she was 9. We brought her over from India, and my wife being from Chicago, we ended up getting her into a school situation in the Chicago area that now we can't leave, because there's just some great opportunities for her and her education based on the school system we're in. So I guess my personal life in some ways has steered me into Chicago, while my business life is mainly still here in Ithaca. And we've embraced technology, and are actually looking to embrace a lot more technology. We use things like ScheduleFly, which is a big tool for us. Using the fly notes for the manager's log, which is a great tool. And I communicate with the restaurant on a daily basis, whether it's through ScheduleFly, telephone calls, text messages. So there's a way in which I've been dialing it in a little bit from afar the past few years, and there've been some personal things that have actually really kept me away. Last year, we had a very sick family member in Chicago, and I ended up doing a lot of caregiving for him, and it did pull me away from Maxie's a little bit too much. So now I'm trying to make up for lost time, spending more time here now. And my daughter's getting older, getting ready to go to high school, and she doesn't need my attention quite as much on site. So, the long distance thing is certainly a challenge, but it's been great for developing a management team that can make decisions on their own. They can spread their wings. Years ago, sometimes when I was here, they'd get tired of me being around a little too much. Like, okay, Chick, you go away now, and let us do our thing. And it was an interesting process, because I think I learned to let go of control enough to allow people to flourish under me. Because I think in the beginning, when we started the restaurant, I wanted to make everything perfect all the time, and there was a way in which it would kind of stress me out, I guess, because I would be here and I would see everything, and as I stepped away from the day to day, I actually realized I'm seeing a lot more because I'm seeing more of the big picture instead of the
Mm-hmm.
details. I'm letting the managers handle the details and the day-to-day operation. I'm kind of steering the ship, from the helm, and it really does work. It's really interesting and fascinating that we can do it from afar. One thing I've definitely realized is that if I'm not here enough, it's hard to implement change. And so I'm really digging in now and looking at new technologies and new things. And we've been here 18 and a half years in a lease situation in our building, and we finally negotiated a purchase of the building, and where our landlord's going to become our bank. He's going to become our mortgage holder instead of our landlord. And so we're excited after 18 and a half years that we're going to be able to start putting a new investment into the project that we just weren't able to justify as our lease was running down. We only have about 6.5 years left on our lease, and there's some improvements we'd like to make, and it's going to be a much better financial situation long term to be able to make these improvements here and own the building. So I don't know. I think I went on a bit of a tangent, but
No, man. That's good. That's good stuff. I mean, that's
good stuff coming in. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. In fact, I want to. Okay, well, first of all, I want to tell people that thank you for mentioning Schedulefly, and that certainly is not something that is something that I asked Chick to do or would ask any of our podcast guests to do. So I appreciate that. I want to actually ask you on that note, since you did mention our company, but there's a lot of other really good technologies in the restaurant space now, and particularly in your situation, and there are a lot of owners that have multiple locations, maybe in different towns or that are spread out. What are some of the other good technologies? Let's have a chance to we'll kind of promote some other folks. What are some other good ones that you like, that you guys use, that are useful and help help you run the business better?
Well, the number one technology, which it's self-evident now, and people almost might think it's funny, but the first thing that it allowed me to not have to be here all the time was the cell phone. I mean, just the phone itself was like, they were, not everyone had one in their hand 20 years ago, and that was the first thing that allowed us to get away, of course, be able to be reachable anywhere in the world, just about. I mean, there's definitely some places where we're unreachable on our cell phones, but that was the first thing. And then, I think the second thing was, I mean, obviously, even when we started back 20 years ago, not everybody had point-of-sale systems. I mean, it's amazing. We use Touch at Maxie's now, and we used HSI before that. And I'm looking forward, looking into Revel and more of a cloud-based platform and such, because of the integration with apps and things that can be used for ordering. People can order from their phones and things like that. We're not embracing those things yet at Maxie's, but I'm actually looking at those things. But I think the number one thing for me, because as an operator, I'm also the the guy that's also looking at the books and the numbers. That we use QuickBooks online, and we've used QuickBooks from the start. But as soon as it became something that was online, we embraced that right away. My sister Karen, who is my partner in the business as well, and the one that I mentioned was here 2 days a week, she does all of our books. And the minute she updates anything on QuickBooks, I see it. I can look at our P&L on a weekly basis, and we've also we download a weekly tool off of that, which I think is a really important tool, and I've shared this with a lot of other restaurateurs that I know. We do a weekly cost of goods and labor analysis, and it's our basic. It's basically our basic weekly report card that we give to our whole management team that shows what our sales were for the week, and we have our sales broken down by food and beer, wine, and liquor, and we actually separate our oyster sales because we do a lot of oysters at our oyster bar, and we kind of run that cost separately, and because we run discounts and promotions on it, so we just kind of pull it out of our food costs so we can look at it separately. And then we have merchandise and some other small categories, but that way we're looking at our cost of goods every week, and we're looking at our labor every week. And I think that's something that I've met a lot of great people in the restaurant industry who really run a great operation from the customer's point of view, but they have financial problems. And having a tool that allows you to see your prime cost, your food, and your cost of goods and your labor every week, and watching that, I think is a key to running a profitable operation. And that's it's a real simple Excel spreadsheet that we pull our numbers weekly. And what I do is we compare our weekly numbers to the same week the year before and the previous year, and then I actually look back 2 years. So I compare our numbers for this week to last year, the same, whatever, the 20th week of the year. I guess it's about, almost the 25th week of the year right now. We're halfway through the year. We compare last June, the same week, to this year, and then the year before. So we look at our sales and our costs for those weeks, and then I do a quarter to date, and then I do a year to date. So we're looking at 3 columns for 3 years every week. So we can see the trends. We can see if our cost of goods are climbing, or our labor's climbing, or are we doing a good job, or are we hitting our goals? And I think that weekly report card is that's one of the best tools for financial management of a business that we have implemented. And we started that from day one. I actually picked that up from some operators in Chicago that I worked for when I first came out of school. I lived in Chicago for a few years, managing some restaurants, and I started getting this weekly report card, and I loved it. I was like, this is great. You can, if there's something going on with your food costs, and you can look right at it. One week something jumps, you're like, oh, well, maybe we messed something up and we miscoded it, but let's take a look. And if it's jumping week after week, it's like, well, what's going on here? Something's happening that's not right, because we're jumping in this category, and we shouldn't be, or I can look at it and be like, our sales are trending down a little bit here, and our labor's trending up. Maybe we're overstaffed a bit, and also it's a great tool because our managers get really used to the trends in the business, because they see what's happening, and they know. They can plan. They're like, well, look at these sheets from last year, and look at the sales we were doing last year, and this is a time of year where we need to cut back a little bit on the front of house staff, or we bring people in a little bit later because the business is coming in later and such. So just tracking that stuff is really important, and it's simple stuff, but man, it makes a big difference. And if you don't own your prime costs, you don't own your cost of goods and your labor, you don't own your restaurant. So that's a big thing here. Other technologies, we're moving in that direction. I'm really looking at things. We've noticed that we do a call ahead seating. We don't typically do reservations, and we've been using a manual system for doing this call ahead and our waiting lists and such. And I'm actually currently looking at things, but I can't really endorse them yet because I haven't used them. There are systems now where we got some guests that are totally happy to come in and have to wait a half hour for a table and sit at the bar and get a drink and some oysters, and then people come in with their families and they want to be able to sit right away, so they'd like to be able to use their phone, either call in or use an app on their phone and be able to just walk in the door and know exactly what time to walk in the door and be able to sit down. So those are the things we're starting to embrace, but we haven't. I'm actually doing the research on that now to bring that in. And but other things we use, we've used Constant Contact for years. We're getting ready to actually switch over to MailChimp for our email marketing, and we're using. We just started implemented a few months ago, Capsule, which is a CRM system, or customer relationship system. So we're using Capsule. What we're doing is we're actually working on building a database in Capsule of all of our contacts for the business. And actually right now I actually have an iPad coming today for the host stand where we're going to add Capsule to it, so our hosts can take our comment cards that are coming in from our guests and enter their information in, and thank them for coming into the restaurant, thank them for making comments, and invite them to come back. Maybe say, hey, thanks for coming in tonight. We'd love to see you again soon. We'd love to buy you a dessert on your next visit, something like that. And these are things that are in process right now. And we're also going to hopefully be able to add an app, like I was talking about, for the table management, as well as for guests to get on our what was it used to be called call ahead seating, but it might be a text ahead or an app of sorts that allows people to get on our waiting list from afar. And but the other thing that the capsule is very interesting. We're actually looking at going to an electronic comment card too, so we're going to experiment with that on our iPad starting in the next few weeks. So we're building comment cards through I think Wufoo. We haven't really used it yet, but it's like an online survey company that integrates with Capsule, and you can grab this information from the comment cards, and then you can bring people into your database and get real time feedback. I've been told that electronic comment cards, like using a tablet at the table, will result in about an 80% response rate versus like a 15 or 20% on a paper comment card. People are somehow more likely now to give you their feedback if you hand them a tablet and ask them for how was my meal tonight, how'd you rate your food, your service, speed of service, any comments for us. And at the same time, we're using that as a marketing opportunity to gather information from people, and we're looking at rolling out a rewards program through this whole capsule database as well. We're using, we're actually at this point right now where I'm really moving forward on embracing technology. After 18 years, and I mentioned the past year or so, I had a lot of family issues going on. I wasn't here as much, and in the meantime, I saw what was going on in the world, and it was interesting because this past election kind of opened my eyes to how technology is being used to market, and how I read articles about how this company called Cambridge Analytics was employed by the Trump campaign, and how they were able to drill down into Facebook psychographics to actually send out messages to particular people. So we're actually using Facebook now, and we're building up our likes and our follows on Facebook, and we're experimenting with what does the Maxie's customer base enjoy on Facebook, and they're engaging with us on cultural things. They're engaging with us on music. They like music. We do live music in the restaurant here. They're engaging us on interesting stories, but really what they really love, they love the behind the scenes stuff in the restaurant. They love we bought new tabletops last month, and I took a picture of the guy that showed up to deliver the tables, and the driver came in with the truck, and then we had a bunch of us were unloading the tables, and we stacked them up, and I took some pictures, and I took pictures of our maintenance man with his drill putting the tables together, and some of the staff, and it made our restaurant look different because we went from a black tabletop to a cherry tabletop, so it actually did change the look of our restaurant significantly. So it was kind of this neat little upgrade that we did, and we kind of we just put on Facebook, hey, this is what's going on at Maxie's Day. We got our new tabletops. We're really excited about them, and people were like, that's cool. They were liking it and stuff. And then we had a picture. Last week we did a big catering event for Cornell for their reunion. Cornell University is here in Ithica, so we do a lot of business with them. And every year we do this really fun picnic for the Johnson School. It's a business school, the MBA school at Cornell. And we did it. We had a picture of the staff that worked that party. There were 10 or 12 of them, and it was funny because we're not a catering operation, we're a restaurant. So when we have big catering events, we call some of our old staff who don't work here anymore. Some of them become nurses, some of them are stay-at-home moms, or they've got other careers, but they're happy to come back to Maxie's and jump in and make some good cash for a few hours work every once in a while. And so we had this picture, and it had both of my sisters, my sister that works here and my other sister who came down from Buffalo to help with the event, and it had several of our team members from that have worked here 10 years ago, and they're still coming back and helping us with catering events, maybe even longer than that, maybe 15 years ago, some of these people. And there were 5 or 6 people that don't work here anymore who were in the picture, and we put that up online and said, hey, look, is this really 2017? I said, and I thanked all the people and tried to tag them. And then it was one of our biggest hits on Facebook ever. We were getting all these former staff members that are living all over the country and all over the world. They were chiming in and saying how happy they were to see everybody and sharing the Maxie's love and all this. And it was fun because it's I think the fun part for me in the business is, and what's becoming fun in the social media aspect, which I was kind of not hip to, and I don't know how hip I really am, but I'm trying to figure it out, is that connecting with people and building culture. And what I realized about social media in the past year, and I was kind of slow to pick up on this, is that Maxie's, we always believed in the word of mouth. We're always here saying, just show our guests a great time. Make sure they leave delighted. Be very aware and pay really close attention to how people are enjoying themselves or not enjoying themselves, if the case happens to be that way, and get in there with them and talk about it and solve the problems and make them happy, so that when they walk out the door, that they are ambassadors of Maxie's. That's what we've always believed in, and that will never go away. That's absolutely so important to us. But the other thing that I've learned is that word of mouth isn't what it used to be. Word of mouth is online. So you kind of got to participate word of mouth is changing. Word of mouth is, maybe it's another word for it, in the social media world, but there's a way in which, especially younger people, I'm getting close to 50 now, but a lot of our staff are in their early 20s, and they're a friend of mine called it, everybody's hand facing. They're looking at their hands because they got their phone or their small tablet in their hand, and
right.
And that's where they're communicating. And the marketing messages need to be really concise because they don't want a lot of words. Texting is a big thing, but it's what I realized is I thought, oh, social media, that's a bunch of noise, I don't have time for that and this. And I'm like, but you got to meet people where they are, that's where they are, so we're having fun with it and learning how to use it in a way that that we can actually target specific groups. We can actually target. I went to the hotel school at Cornell. I can target the hotel school on Facebook, students in the hotel school, and say, hey, we're going to have a hotel school night down at Maxie's. Get down here, and we're going to give you guys half price oysters all night, or whatever it might be, and just say you're from the hotel school, or show this promotion on your phone that you got on Facebook or something like that. And it's really interesting. To me, it's like a fascinating new world of marketing that's available to reach out to specific people with specific things they might be interested in. So I think it's pretty fascinating, but I'm really learning about it. But I've really come around on embracing technology in the past year, and now we're really going to start experimenting. We're already experimenting with some things, but like I said, we're bringing in some new things. We don't have an iPad at our host stand now, but we will now, and we'll start rolling through the capsule and the electronic gift cards, and bringing in a table management software and a way for people to get in line on our list. So I'm real excited about it. I think it's a lot of fun, and trying these new things. It's funny because someone was laughing the other day. A buddy of mine who's helping out with some things here. He said, there's he goes, you're kind of an anomaly. Usually it's not the old guy from Chicago coming in. It's usually the guy saying don't change anything. You're the guy that's coming in and being like, come on guys, let's change it. I'm trying to get the young people enthused to change, and it's kind of funny to be the person that's in the organization who's the oldest, who is here trying to figure out all this technology and stuff. I was always hoping maybe like one of my 20-year-olds would want to educate me, but I'm educating myself and bringing it back to them. So it's just kind of funny.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's what you've so. I mean, you've gone, and perhaps it is from having time away from the business and time to reflect. And you said that when you're not there as much now, it gives you a better sense of the big picture. So you've really embraced, the next life cycle of Maxie's through technology and new ways to engage your audience and make the restaurant run more efficiently and enable your staff to connect with folks easier and connect with you. So these our technology at Schedulefly and whoever else is are all good ways to hopefully make a business run a little smoother and certainly some of the customer facing ones engage the audience, and they're awesome.
I think what's interesting to me is that I was a bit resistant, although we were using technology all along. Like I actually, it was funny because I was pushing for Schedulefly for quite some time before I could get my managers to buy into it. I was like, this thing is, Schedulefly is going to save you a lot of headaches. I mean, I could see when I started reading about it, and I went to your website and I saw some of the videos about how it worked and such. I was like, wow, this is like a great tool because people. I feel like the big thing Schedule Fly does from a staffing point of view is it gives the staff more autonomy and control over their schedule in a way that we still can decide who's allowed to pick up shifts or this and that if someone's not ready for something or another. But the big thing is that the way that they have more responsibility for it actually empowers them to be more responsible about it. And in what I've told my managers, which has proven to be true, our management team is dealing with a lot less missed shifts or last minute changes. People are getting their own shifts covered. Things like that are just like, wow, like those types of headaches just add so much stress when you're getting ready to open and you find out somebody's not going to make it for whatever reason, where these people are, our staff is now like taking a lot more responsibility in that area because they have this tool and they feel more responsible for it, and I think that's been huge.
Well, what we always hope is that like what we provide takes something that used to take a lot of time and effort and cause headaches and stuff, and just make that process smoother so that you guys can focus on, more important stuff. You don't want to be dealing with coming in and opening a restaurant and going, oh my gosh, so-and-so can't make it. I've got to call 15 people and try to get them in.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That's what I hope our technology does. But let me ask you this: what these technologies are great because they help in a lot of ways. But the flip side is there's things about the restaurant business that have never changed and won't ever change, which is providing a great experience and providing not only great food but great ambience and great service and so on and so forth. I hear, Chick, a lot now. I'm just curious your thoughts. I'm hearing a lot of folks telling me, specifically a lot of independent restaurant owners telling me that they're really struggling now to find, that, as one guy said recently, he said, and this may just be market specific, but I seem to hear this in a lot of markets. But he said, Will, labor is at DEFCON 4 right now. I can't find anybody that's willing to work hard. What are your thoughts on that? Are you guys still able to find good people willing to work hard, willing to earn their stripes, not expecting to kind of have them right on the front end of the day one, but willing to come in and put forth some effort and be part of a sort of the bigger picture and focused on helping making the business great? Or tell me what's going on with that for you.
I think we've been struggling, and I think when I look back at some of the struggles we've had the past few years, I would say that the biggest thing has been a lack of applicants that makes the labor pool smaller. Ithica is in Tompkins County, New York, up here in central New York, is actually consistently, I think, since the entire time Maxie's been in business, maintains the lowest unemployment rate in the state. So we've always had a tight labor market here. No matter if there's a boom or a bust in the economy, it seems that labor is always tough in Ithica. Tight. It's a tight market. The interesting thing is that there's a lot of interesting people in Ithica, which makes it challenging too, because we like to hire interesting people to work for us who are interesting and have active lives, and we tend to hire people that have a lot going on because they're just kind of the interesting personalities that bring enthusiasm to the table. So it's always been challenging, and I would say, if anything, I do feel that the last couple of years has been really challenging on the labor front, particularly back of house, and I understand it's a national phenomenon now. New York did something last year. They raised the minimum wage on tipped employees. They raised it from $5 to $7.50 an hour, which cost my business, if you just looked at the wage increase, was about $50,000 of increased wages because of this minimum wage change. Now, when that happened, I was like, wow, this is tough, because our industry is, from a full service point of view, in our casual dining segment, we're the big money's going to the servers and bartenders already. Now we're giving them a raise. If we want to keep our costs in line with this raise, we either need to start doing more business right away or raise prices. And if I raise prices, I'm going to just give my front of house people another raise, because we're not allowed to tip out the kitchen. Which I don't know if that's a federal law or if it's just a New York state law. But, in New York, I think it's a New York law where if you don't spend 80% of your workday in customer engagement, or 80 or 90, some high high percentage, you're not allowed to get a piece of the tips. So this whole, it's interesting because Danny Meyer, I'm sure you know about the Union Square
Yeah.
Hospitality Group, and he's going to this hospitality included, no tipping policy. I think yeah, and he's doing it largely to address, I believe. I mean, he feels that tipping is a relic of the past and is, I think he calls it a barbarous relic or something like that. I heard him say something about it, but the idea that it was and don't quote me on that one. I don't want to put words in Danny's mouth, but his point, one of the points I heard him say was, he goes, I got more culinary institute and more culinary trained professionals in my dining rooms than I do in my kitchens. He goes, because the way the model, the business model in the restaurant business works is, the front of house is making a lot more money, and now we got a state coming in telling us we need to pay them more. So what it forced us to do was pay them more, and then we immediately gave a bump to all of our kitchen people, because it was like, well, got to stay competitive for the kitchen help, and and how demoralizing is that the state's forcing a raise on the front of house. We got to do something for our staff in the back of house, and so I think I think that's one of the issues is the back of house decline in interest of working in kitchens seems to be a big thing. But as far as yeah, I would say you are competing for, and we've always felt that we've been competing for staff. I mean, we in Ithica with our restaurant here, Ithica's got it's a great little town. It's a college-driven town, but we also have a great tourism thing going on here, and it's a great local community as well. And I think the general feel in the restaurant market here is there's a lot of very passionate people in the business, and we all kind of are in it together. I mean, in some ways we're competing, but in some ways we're all kind of working together to make Ithica a great destination and a great dining town and a great place to live. And but I think one place that we're competing is for labor. But I have a number of friends in the restaurant business here, and we've kind of had some agreements not to ever steal, come in and actively we wouldn't actively recruit each other's staff to but we would certainly I don't feel bad if someone wants to leave one of my friends' restaurants and they want to come work at Maxie's instead. I feel that there's license to do so, but we also check references and stuff, so those conversations come up. But yeah, it's a tight market. I think that is one of the biggest challenges in the business. But there's great people out there, and I think back to embracing technology again. What I'm realizing is we're embracing technology is that it's pulling we can use technology to kind of pull the managers and the management team and the staff kind of out of the weeds a little bit. So if we can implement these technological tools that will save us time and headaches and save us on repetitive, maybe unnecessary communications to solve problems that we could maybe solve with technology, it's my feeling that then we can spend our time doing what we're best at, which is, like you said, the food, the drink, the experience, the thing that's don't ever change in the restaurant business. But most importantly in that, I think, are culture building and really engaging with your staff and your guests on a level where you're feeding them. And for me, and I go back to, like, it's interesting because some of the challenges we've been experiencing at Maxie's have been due to my lack of engagement because I've been afar. But not only was I afar, I was distracted with other personal matters and family matters. But I also had myself a bit taken away from the restaurant because I was on a bit of a spiritual pursuit. And our house, I mentioned we have a house in the mountains outside of Asheville, and it's where my wife and I met at a meditation retreat. And I spent many years. I still am a daily meditator. I go inward and I sit with myself daily and kind of observe my thoughts and tap into the source of what Albert Einstein would call the unified field. I guess spiritual people might call it God or consciousness or other things, but there's a way I've learned to tap into the depth of my being through meditation, and I did a lot of that for years, maybe to some degree to the detriment of some of my outer life, and including my business, and as I got pulled away a bit. But now what I'm realizing is I'm able to re-engage with the business. I've kind of come out of my cave of meditation. I'm still doing it daily, but I'm not as inward. I've brought myself back outward, and I'm doing this level of communication where I'm able to back to my point about the technology and building the culture, is that the most important thing for us to do is communicate with other human beings. I think in life, and life's all about relationships with people. So I'm bringing that back into my business at a new level. It's always been there, but now I've been able to tap in a way that is really deep in allowing me to engage with people to help them tap into the creativity and the place in themselves where there's just so much creativity and for lack of a better word, love to share with other people. And I've been talking more about sharing and spreading the Maxie's love, and that's really what we're doing here now, is we're tapping in. I think because of some of the work I've done, and we're able to find the people better. It's like you're almost like creating a space in the environment for good things to happen if you're not caught up in fear and stress and anxiety about the day-to-day operations, but you're running it well, you're embracing the tools, you're making changes, you're moving forward, and it gives you more time to focus on those relationships. And that's how we're going to continue to move forward and compete for the help, by creating an environment where it's a fulfilling experience to work here. And they feel that they get more than the satisfaction of being on a team that's winning and making good money, getting well compensated and taking home a paycheck, but they're also getting a little bit of a nudge in the direction of really having a great life and tapping into their creativity and getting the flow going and getting love moving through them in a way that our guests feel it, they feel it, and they go home every day feeling a little bit more fulfilled, a little bit happier, a little bit freer from their own stresses and strains of their life. And that's, in a way, I've kind of become my own kind of a psychotherapist or a spiritual leader in my organization, because I'm finding this thing in myself that I'm able to share with others, and I think it's having an effect, and I think it's drawing more open, creative, and interested people to our organization. So I think it becomes I think your main question about staffing and such, it really becomes a situation where how are you going to compete for those staff? And yes, you want to have good benefits, and yes, you want to be a good place to work, and yes, you want to give people good compensation and benefits and stuff. But if you really, really want to compete, you got to make people's lives better. And I'm really trying to go to the depth with my people in a way that doesn't intrude on them, but it enthuses them, because everybody's got that enthusiasm in them. And I think if you can help people tap into it, they can bring great things to the table, and they feel great about what they're doing, and they just feel happier. And so much of it in our world today, and the chaos we see in our world, and the anxiety and the stress and the fear and the trouble and the right down to wars, comes down to this fear. People are full of fear, I don't know why, but related to stress, and they're being paralyzed. They're not able to follow the real heart, their heart's desire. And I think if you can tap into the depth and do a little work and a little reflection on yourself and watch what's going on in your mind, and you can figure out that your mind is just it can either be something that you are a slave to, or you can use it as a tool. And the mind is a very active thing, and a lot of people are getting stressed out by thoughts like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. Oh, I don't know, I'll probably fail. Maybe I won't be successful. Everybody told me I wouldn't be good at that. All these like negative thoughts, negative self-impression, negative ideas. Oh, I don't know if I can trust that person. Whatever it might be. And then the flip side is like in your heart, you really know what feels good. So if you can tap into what really feels good and just kind of lean in that direction and start maybe taking a step forward on what your heart's telling you to do, you can start realizing that those thoughts are just a story, and the story's got to go away. That's just the past. That's you just thinking about the past and projecting on the future. So, I'm taking this conversation in a direction you probably never expected.
Well, no, man. I mean, that's awesome. There was a restaurant owner out in San Francisco I interviewed on the podcast about a year ago, and he got into this a little bit, and he said, you can live in love or you can live in fear, and we choose love.
That's
and,
right.
because he was Yeah, I mean, it's really it does boil down to that. I've actually written about this on our blog before about fear. Fear is a powerful emotion, and we don't, and it's one of those things where when you strip down, and this is what you've done and you've learned through meditation. I don't meditate. I should. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I listen to a lot of podcasts and hear a lot of folks that I admire that meditate, and then clearly you're very centered and balanced because of that, and you have a good sense of what's important. Fear is behind so many decisions, as you alluded to, when you really, when you kind of ask, there's a little saying I always use, ask why like a 5-year-old. So if you keep asking why, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
But,
Right.
So somebody wants to, well, I don't know if I want to do it, but why? Well, so they can kind of like get through one level, a quick, easy explanation, which is what sort of they want to project to the outside world. But then the next, yeah, but why? Well, then it gets a little bit tougher to answer that second level of why. And then the third level of why is where you really get into, well, basically it comes down to fear a lot of times, why we don't do,
Yeah,
things.
and
fear's good. It's fight or flight, right? We're wired. I mean, it's a healthy thing to have fears for certain things, but it's learning to channel the fear in the right direction and the love, if you will, and the right. And so we've kind of, I think, as a society, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it's here, maybe it's really around the world. Probably people are just, in the modern world, you don't really know what to fear, and there's so many choices and things now, so it's hard. So to live in that kind of fear is almost a natural state of being, I think, and it can be healthy in some ways. But
I think you're saying a lot of right things, but I think it's an unnatural state of being. I think that's the problem, is that it may be ingrained in our physiologies through our DNA and our culture and such, but I think it's actually an unnatural thing. I think it's or we need to overcome, like, maybe it's natural because it was like instinctual from us being.
Well, it's like, so you don't want to get killed by the tiger. Yeah. Right, exactly. And you needed it, you needed it to stay alive, but we don't need it to stay, like, I don't need to be fearful all day to stay alive. But the problem is, too, not to get too far off to the off of the restaurant stuff, but it is, we're surrounded by, part of what you alluded to earlier, so we can kind of bring this back to technology, is that we are staring at our hands all the time. We have information at our fingertips all the time. And fear is fear spreads, right? So I mean, the media and every you get people's attention when you spread fear, right? So it's much
there's
easier.
A lot more fear spreading. There's a lot more fear spreading than love spreading going on the news. And
that's right. That's right. So, well, yeah, it's funny. I talked to my kids about this yesterday. I said, I don't like to watch the news because all it is negative stuff, and they know that it'll capture your attention, but it kind of gets to you after a while. So. Well, let me ask you this, Chick. So you've come, you've been in this business for a long time, and you've come quite a way personally and professionally in your history in this business. What are the things that we've talked about? A lot of things that have changed in 18 years. What hasn't changed about the restaurant business?
What hasn't changed is, it's what you said earlier. It's a business that is all about, showing people a good time. I've told our staff since day one that people come to Maxie's to feel good. There's a lot of good restaurants in Ithica. There's a lot of good places to get a good meal. There always have been, as long as we've been in business. But the number one thing for us is people come here to feel good, and that hasn't changed. People want to feel good, It's funny, and I just want to make one more point on that fear thing too, because I think it was important that what I've been telling my team here is, like, let's not be, let's screw some stuff up. That's what I tell them, like, let's go out and make some new mistakes.
Yes.
Because I think if we embrace the idea that it's okay to make mistakes, and that we're going to make mistakes, and that those mistakes are going to lead to better solutions, that really helps you make some good decisions and overcome the fear if you can follow the heart and do that. But I'm sorry, but I just want to make that point because I thought it was important, because I think it's resonating with my team that let's and I think another point was too, when there's resistance to change, which I think is a really important point, is being able to tell my team is, like, everything we do here at Maxie's, that you see. Every one of our recipes, every drink recipe, every food recipe, the way we roll up our silverware, the way we put them on a plate on a table, the way our marketing, our graphics, every policy, every procedure, every little thing we do, where we store the ramekins, whatever it is, like everything we do, we had to invent it all. It wasn't fear that allowed us to open a restaurant. It was our hearts that let us open the restaurant, and we followed our dream. And then we and we didn't have it all written down and planned out and figured out. We did it, and then we reverse engineered it. We like, I think when you start something, when you create something, it's like you can't necessarily always start with a blueprint. You can start with an idea and move in a direction, and then you can reverse engineer it, turn it into a system. And I think that's an important thing that I've been pointing out to my team is like, when you guys are resistant to changes that we want to do, it's like, remember, don't be afraid to try something. If we didn't try something, we wouldn't even be here. And we tried thousands of things to get where we are now. And I think that hasn't changed in the restaurant business either, is because, the creativity is such an important part of this business, and I think going back to the things that haven't changed, people want to feel good. People want to have a good meal. People want to feel appreciated.
Well, people want to feel appreciated. So does staff. And you see, so it's an interesting thing because I interview a lot of restaurant owners, and I see sort of two different styles. One is sort of a top down. This is how we do it, my way or the highway kind of thing, more of a controlling style versus, as you alluded to earlier, and maybe a lot of times it's kind of how, when you first start a place and you're there all the time and you kind of feel like you got to hold on to this thing tight and get everything the way you want it and everything. But then you learn to give up control, and your sort of failing forward philosophy that you just articulated of, being okay with mistakes and learning from them and helping, letting those help you grow. That's again, it's sort of a non-fear-based way of approaching things, which
right.
gives people the freedom to feel like, okay, it's okay if I screw up. I'm not going to get, yelled at, or even if I get, corrected or whatever. It's not in a negative way. It's like, hey, man, you messed this up. I've messed up too. Here's how we're going to do better going forward, or whatever. You have in fact, you remind me a little bit with that. And I knew you worked with this guy, Dave Query, out in Boulder. I think you said you had worked with him years ago, but he was one of the first folks I interviewed a few years ago. But he seems to have that style too, and boy, it's worked well. I mean, he's had a lot of success with, having his finger on the pulse of the business, but giving a lot of autonomy and freedom to his folks to succeed. Did you? Is that something you learned through working with him, or?
I think I would say that Dave, when I worked in Dave's organization, it was early on. It was when he had Zolo had been open for, it was probably the first year, and he was getting Jack's open. I think he had just opened Jack's, so it was his first two restaurants of the Big Red F group. He'd had other restaurants before that, I know, but before he really started the group that he has now. And the thing about Dave's group in Boulder, Boulder's just an awesome town and a fun place. And there's so many fun people there. It's got a great culture of active young people and young people at heart, no matter how old they are. And it was an inspiring place to live. But I thought the greatest thing about Dave and his organization, he ran these sophisticated restaurants that were, not super upscale because they're casual, fun restaurants. And with great food. He's obviously a great chef, and he's got this great back of house culture, and he leads the charge in having great menus and ongoing changes and specials there. But I thought the thing that impressed me most about Dave and his organization is that he ran a really sophisticated restaurant group that was really run professionally, and he really did focus on having the best people who were fun people and great hospitality people who enjoyed each other. And I think, we definitely took a lot from our experience with Dave and my ex-wife, who I started Maxie with. Dave, she worked in Dave's organization as well, so we both got to work for Dave when we were in Boulder. There was a level of enthusiasm and fun, focus on the guest, but also like the team has to be fun. It's like how can you really show the guests a great time um, if the team isn't having a great time doing it? And but the thing is, it's a delicate balance, because the great time on the team has to be still focused on the guest. So there has to be
Mhm.
enough interest and seriousness about hospitality and about wanting to show people a great time and about the quality of the food, the service, the product, the ambiance, the environment, and everything you do, all those details. There has to be it's like passion mixed with fun, and I think Dave really has that down. And that's something that we certainly have here at Maxie's too. Is it's passion, it's excitement, it's enthusiasm, it's the desire to do fun things and show people a great time, and but also being professional and being serious about showing people a good time. So it's like,
Yeah.
we take a good time seriously. We take people having fun seriously. So there's a delicate balance of, the staff's got to make sure they're not having too much fun with each other and taking it, carrying it away. So there's always got to be like the attention on the final outcome. And the final outcome for me is always like, how does this affect the guests? How does anything that we do, any decision we make, how does it affect our guest experience? So that's really what it comes to. And I think Dave is very focused on that, and I think all the great operators are. And especially
Well,
in this full service restaurant segment, where it's like, you're building relationships with people over time, and you've got to consistently be sure that the people are enjoying what they're doing, but it's like I said, you're competing for the staff too, so it's got to be a fun place. They got to enjoy coming to work.
it seems a lot of that stuff. I wrote a post the other day on our blog called "How to Get and Keep a Restaurant Job," and I think it's really true of almost any job. But, when I was a young fella, right out of college, I had I'll readily admit now, I had a pretty good sense of entitlement and kind of expected a lot of things to be given to me before I earned it. And it the workforce will teach you that lesson pretty quickly. And I really learned that it wasn't about me. It was about the people around me. That's what mattered. So if you're focused on the guests, if you're focused on your teammates, the guests are going to be happy, your teammates are going to be happy. That's going to make things fun. And then your personal success is sort of the byproduct. Right?
Exactly.
So if you're focused if you're focused on you and your success, you're probably going to be unhappy a lot of the times. And but if you're focused externally with sort of that love, right? So the going back to that, kind of when you're internally focused and focused on you and your success, that's, again, if you kind of keep asking why, it probably goes back to fear, where if you're really approaching it with that sense of love, then you're focusing on everybody else around you. Your success kind of just comes as a natural byproduct of that. And that was kind of my point in that. Like, don't expect things to be given to you. Focus on, something bigger, being a part of a team, being a part of a business, help that business grow, go above and beyond, not only just work hard, but work for the people around you, help the people around you, help the business, and wow people every day. You're going to be happier, and the great thing is you're going to be promoted, you're going to get other opportunities, you're going to have more fun. Everything's going to work out well, but it's got to be, that external focus, and let those other things be the byproduct, not the focus. But it's hard to find. That's hard to find, and that's the culture you want to embrace, and that's the culture you want to help foster and help it thrive. But it seems more and more that our culture has taught us to be so self-centered that I think that is a big challenge, and continues to be and will continue to be, that to find people that understand that at an early age. And that's the trick, right? Like, it took me some time, then I figured it out, and I went, okay, this is, what am I thinking? And so, but the problem with restaurants, or the challenge with restaurants, is that typically, a lot of your staff are young, and that may not be they're kind of told they're special for most of their lives, and learn to have a very self-centered focus. So it becomes challenging to find people that can get out from under that and learn to look at things, with a different perspective. But I think if you can find those folks, then that's all those other things. The success of the business kind of comes with getting folks like that have that team focus and that customer focus, and things will naturally be fun. And anyway, man, I'm kind of but that to me is the challenge that I hear a lot, and I imagine that it's not an easy one to overcome, but certainly it's something that you as restaurant owners have to deal with all the time, and I'm just fascinated with that. I think it's an interesting dilemma with our culture and with our workforce. And restaurants are one that, with the typical age of your staff, you guys are at the sort of the epicenter of that.
Yeah, I think everything you said is totally right. I agree with all of those things about, it comes back to, I think it's, if you want to be successful, if you want to find those people, I think you need to lead. And the thing is, I've been telling our people, I'm like, managers don't lead, leaders lead. So I'd like to have leaders in management positions, so that the position manager, the boss person, the person in charge, is a leader. And what that leader needs to do is exactly what you were saying earlier, is support everybody around them, And if they can support in that loving way, man, that leader is going to be appreciated and successful and keep moving forward. So that's what leadership is. That leadership is exactly what you said. It's like it's getting away from fear. It's supporting the team. It's supporting your teammates. It's supporting the guest interests, supporting the interests that the business has, assuming that they're pure and positive, and the success follows. You don't have to worry about success. You have to worry about being able to get away. It's back to that fear thing. Forget the fear. Lead with the heart. Come in and do what you believe in, and support and share the love with people around you, and you'll be successful. The success comes. It's amazing, and but I think you're right. We're getting wired in the reverse, so we need to just rewire a little bit. And that's where things like meditation or exercise or whatever type of stress relief that people have is an important thing. And I think for me, leading an organization, like, you got to take care of yourself. I as I get older, I eat healthier, I drink less. I don't consider myself a partier anymore, although I did probably 25, 30 years ago, maybe even 10, 15 years ago. But the more I've taken care of myself as I've gotten older, it's like, man, I want to have a clear mind. I want to have a clear head. I want to wake up in the morning refreshed and ready to go. And what I'm finding is, as I do that, and as I you lead in that way, and come in and really try to give to the people and teach them to learn and grow, you find that the relationships have more meaning in life. Everything in life just is more meaningful when you're really focused on sharing the knowledge or the love or whatever you want to call it. But the way in which you give to other people, and doing it through the restaurant business, which is our platform, that's our platform of interface for the world. The way we're going to make it better is by making it better. We're going to make the world better by making it better. We're going to have more. The only way we can shift culture is by more people having conversations like this and sharing these type of thoughts with other business owners and just other people in general. That whatever their role or their area of expertise or their career or their life looks like. It's conversations like this, and as much as there's so much negativity and chaos out there, I think there's a lot of people that are starting to really talk about this stuff, and you're seeing more and more people engaging on these type of issues that really talk about, like, do we want to create the world that we want to live in, or are we going to let someone else with corporate media or whoever it is, and tell us the way the world's going to be? It's like, I want to create my world. I want to be part of creating it. And I don't know what it looks like, but I know that the more of myself I put in and share with others, the better my world gets. And I know it's got to have, and I know it does. I know it has tentacles. Like those of us that own a restaurant or manage a restaurant, or or having our careers in business, man, the more love we put in it, the more of our heart we put in it, the more we give through it, and it energizes. First of all, it energizes you. Like the more, it's like, man, when you get that those positive vibes moving through you, it's like it's like fuel. It just keeps you going, and it's got tentacles. It reaches through your culture, it reaches through your organization, through your people, and they reach it through the guests, and it reaches through your whole marketplace, and the tentacles just keep reaching out. So just like we were saying earlier, you say fear gets spread, fear is spreading. Well, the opposite of fear can spread too, and it does, and it works the same way. It's like, do you want to be on a vicious cycle, or do you want to be on a positive cycle, a virtuous cycle? So we're aiming to do our little part to make the world as good as we can be by setting a virtual cycle through our restaurant business instead of a vicious cycle. And the thing is, the same thing you say about, personal success in the business by going ahead and supporting others and giving and not worrying about your own success. The same thing, the financial profits will come too. The more the more of those positive vibes you put into the business. I mean, you got to be smart. You got to watch your business. You got to look at your food costs, your labor costs, your cost of goods. You got to, price things properly. You got to be relevant in the marketplace with your products, and people got to be excited to come in, and you got to do all these operational details properly. But that's kind of like service. That's kind of I talk to our staff about service versus hospitality. Service is all the nuts and bolts we do. It's our recipes. It's our our standards of how long it takes to make a drink and get it to the table. How we seat and greet, and all these mechanical processes that you see in our training programs, and all the systems that we've built. Like, I call that service, and then hospitality is the rest of it. It's all heart. So I ask people when I interview them, I said, what's more important, service or hospitality? And they're like, huh? What do you mean? Service or hospitality? And then I kind of tell them, well, hospitality is more like the heart. Danny Meyer, who is one of my heroes, says, hospitality is showing others you're on their side. And he's like, 51% of our business is hospitality, 49% service. So it's like 49% is technical. Like, we got to be really, really good at what we're doing. So we got to be really good at our all those mechanical things, the recipes, the training, everything that the guest interacts with from a technical restaurant point of view is got to be great. But that's only 49%. The most important thing is how much we care. How much we focus on the relationship, because at the end of the day, if the service breaks down, we can fix it. If we screw up a dish because it got oversalted, or it didn't go out hot enough, or we spill a glass of wine in someone's lap, or whatever the downfall may be, we can fix that. We can come in and fix that, make it right, not do it again, or get improving our mistakes. But if the hospitality is broken, you're sunk. If people don't think you care, if you don't show your guests every day, which means showing your staff every day, because you can't have real hospitality unless you've got internal hospitality. You've got to have an environment that is supportive and cares about people in order to have guests that feel supported and cared about. Because then, hospitality will save bad service every time. If you've got good hospitality and you made a mistake, like, good hospitality is going to be aware of it. It's going to acknowledge it. It's going to apologize for it. It's going to solve the problem, make the people happy. So you're going to follow procedures that are maybe even sounding like service steps, but the hospitality really cares. Hospitality is aware enough to know that the guest is not having a good time, or something didn't go right, or is aware enough to know that it's someone's birthday, or they've got an allergy, whatever it might be, their preferences. Hospitality remembers things about people and maintains the relationship. Service is just the technical stuff we do. So when we screw up the service, people will forgive us if our hospitality is good, if they know we cared enough to recognize it and do something about it and make sure that they leave delighted. If the service is 100% dead on right all the time, it's perfect, but guests don't feel cared about, it's a cold experience. It's like, I say, hospitality without service is lame. It's like, okay, you've got good hospitality, but if Maxie's screws up every time I come in, it's like, well, I guess I can go to Maxie's and get a friend because they're so nice there, but they can't seem to get it right. So you got to have a certain level of service. You got to get that 49% right most of the time in order for people to trust you, right? So you got to be a competent business, a competent restaurant. But I say hospitality, or I don't know what I said, for hospitality without hospitality without service is lame. Service without hospitality is cold. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
people have more compassion for the lame than they do for the cold. Service without hospitality is cold. It's like it doesn't feel good. It's like, I could come in, I could have a technically great experience. The food could be dead on. The server was there on time every time. The drinks came as they were supposed to. Everything was perfect, but I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel cared for. I'm more likely to go back at a place where they screwed up, but they cared, as long as they don't screw up too much. Because I think I think hospitality, being the 51%, also requires a certain level of excellence in your service. If your service isn't great, you can't have great hospitality, because that means you don't care enough about the service. Service is part of the whole game.
Well, it is a good balance. And you mentioned Danny Meyer, and so I'll just say, so many folks that I admire, like you, that I talk to, are fans of Danny. And so, folks, if you're listening to this and you haven't read Setting the Table, Danny's book, I highly recommend it. It's a great book. It's sort of I can't tell you how many successful restaurant owners I know that have read Setting the Table and that have embraced so much of what Danny says. So
it's required reading for everyone that steps on our management team here. Yeah.
Perfect. And that's also what I hear from a lot of folks, again, that good, successful, independent restaurant owners. That's how they operate. So well, listen, Chick, I could talk to you all day. I have to cut this short for my own purposes. I know you've been so kind with your time. I want you to please, if you think about it, let me know next time you're heading to Asheville. I'd love to. I'm about 2 hours away here in Charlotte. I'd love to come up there and have a glass of wine with you or something. But so we can follow with that offline. But tell me, where
that'd be
can
great.
people?
My wife and I are heading down in the next few weeks. Maybe we can get together. That'd be nice.
You definitely let me know. I always like an excuse to get up there. Where can people find you? Tell me the Maxie's. What's the website? Where's your Facebook page? Anybody that's listening that wants to kind of follow up and learn more about what you're doing, where should they go?
Yeah, our website is www.maxies.com. So we're at maxies.com. And we're specifically at the Ithica link. There's also a Maxie's in Milwaukee that we started 10 years ago that is now a licensing deal. I used to be one of the partners in the business, but I sold my interest to our chef in Milwaukee years back. And so there are two Maxie's now. And we have, I believe we're at Maxie's Ithica on Facebook, which is a platform that we use quite a bit as well. So, and if anyone wants to reach out to me and talk to me or have questions, it's chick@maxies.com is my email, chick@maxies.com. I'd be happy to follow up with questions, or if anyone wants to connect, I can do so through Facebook or my email address.
Dude, that's very kind of you, Chick. And just your time, your thoughts, man, it was awesome listening to you and hearing.
Yeah, I could go on and on with you
what
all
you're
day
doing,
too,
Well, man, it's been a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed it. I appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate, of course, your business, but I certainly appreciate your time and doing this. I know anybody that listens to this will as well. And I hope we talk again soon, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it was fun for me too. I really appreciate being invited to come on with you and have the conversation. And I look forward to meeting you in person sometime soon. I'll reach out and maybe we can, like you said, get together in Asheville soon.
We'll make it happen, man. Chick, enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck to you guys. And we'll talk soon, man. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Will.
All right, take care. Okay.
All right.
Bye.